Oh! Good morning. Welcome to the basement. This is your instructions on how to use Turnitin.com to check for plagiarism and originality in your work. You'll need to do this before you turn in each of the 5 final drafts in this course, including this first week final. So, after these instructions complete, know that what you're turning in is not both of the papers that you do this week, but the one that you want to turn in for Monday's final exam deadline. It's probably a good idea to start with the course schedule first. So let's take a look at where we are. It is Friday morning, and you're working on 2 drafts at the same time. The persuasive draft that we did a lot of work on in class yesterday, and now the response to literature draft that you're working on now because your outlines were corrected and sent back to you last night. You still have a couple hours to do that. At 3 o'clock, some things start to move. You will get a peer edit assignment down in peer edit reports. P.2, the first week final draft, will be posted, and actually it's not final draft, it's just draft. You're only choosing one of the 2 papers. Don't make your peers edit both of your papers. Choose either your persuasive number 1 or your response literature number 1 to be reviewed by the process that we practiced earlier this week. But it's also important to know that you don't have to submit your final draft choice. Maybe you don't even know what your final draft is here. So if you feel very sure, you could put in your final draft choice and know that that's going to get some refinement from your peers. But if you feel like you have a paper that's weaker than the other, you might want to send that one in and get some support from your peers who might know better at that particular style than you do. The reality is that some of you are going to be better at response to literature papers. Some of you are going to be better at research persuasion papers. So mixing up the kind of papers that you're exposed to in these peer edit group projects will improve everybody's writing. So you're choosing one paper. It does not necessarily have to be your final draft. Then the other thing that you need to do is turn it in to Turnitin.com. That should be your final draft. So whatever it is that you are choosing, your peer editing will end 9 a.m. on Monday, and then you have Monday to take your choice and turn it into a final draft. And so whatever it is that you're choosing to be that final draft, that is what should go into Turnitin.com. So from here, we're going to take a look at the steps for logging in to your new Turnitin account and using Turnitin.com to check your paper. So in your email, you should have an email that says log in to your Turnitin.com. You've been added to a Turnitin class and you have to set up an account. Some of you may already have a Turnitin.com account, and then it'll say log in. And it's much easier. Once you log in, you're in the class. Process over. But for those of you who have never done Turnitin.com, you're setting up an account. So the email address is the email address that you were sent this invitation. So don't put in your personal address here. Put in the same address that it would have been sent to, which is your school account. Now I'm using the school newspaper as a demo, so I'm going to put in the school newspaper's email address, and I gave them the last name student. Oops. I better just check demo student. Oh, it's BHS Unleashed. Silly me, let's try this again. Nope. Bedford NHK12 at... Oh, HN. Real. And H, not HN. Let's try this one more time. Okay, there we go. So this sends an email back to your Google account, making sure that, like, yeah, are we really doing this? And I have that. And so now it has your accounts almost set up. Create your password. And then this should be the same, just so you don't get confused. Use the same address. This is normally not best practice to use the same email address and password for everything, but you're only ever using this inside the school environment. So when you go off and make any personal accounts, best practice is to change your password as often as possible. But since these school accounts are always used at school and we go back to them and say like log in quick when you're in classrooms, it's just helpful to keep your Google address and your Google password linked together. It just makes for fast login. So once I do that, I can log in. And this is my teacher account, so I'm not going to log in as the teacher. I'm going to log in as the student that I just made. All right. And it's going to have some security questions. My first car was a Mercury Topaz in 1992. And then if you need to make changes to your first and last name here, if there's something that you want to switch, or if I somehow got the first and last switch, you can make changes. And in we go. And this is a privacy agreement that you could read through if you wanted to be safe, but we don't let you use tools unless our technology department has read through these privacy agreements themselves. So this has been vetted by the administration, and we agree to use Turnitin.com. Once you're in here, your class will appear. And then in the future, since all classes are required to use Turnitin.com, all of your classes will show up here. So just get used to clicking on your class. And then here is your first week final draft folder, if you will. And so you need to submit your first week final draft here. And the submission title does not matter. So if first week final draft is what you want to call it, that's fine. And you're going to choose your paper from Google Drive. Log into your Google Drive. Go ahead and continue to be Unleashed, that's fine. We'll see if Unleash has anything interesting to upload. I will upload this sports pep rally article. Nope, let's do this one because I see it has some quotes in it. And so that actually might show up, turn up some of the interesting features of Turnitin. So we'll use this. You're obviously not finding a random paper. You're turning in what you want to be your final draft. In this screen, it's going to sort of show you a preview of what the document's going to look like once in there. If it looks right, confirm it, and your submission is complete. And you can return to the assignment list. And once it says resubmit instead of submit, then you know that you have turned in the paper. Now right now it is generating what is called a Similarity Report, which means it's actually scanning through the document, comparing it to all the other documents that it has in the Turnitin database, and seeing if it is flagging any matches. Once the Similarity Report is complete, it will be a percentage. So what this looks like on the teacher end, and I can click into assignments. I'm going to now log into, I'm logging into Mr. Honert. This is what I see. I'm going into my hybrid class, and one of my students has turned in their first week final draft. So I check this. If this is 14 out of 14, or eventually it'll say 13 out of 13, because I'll kick Unleashed out once I'm done teaching with it. And your work will appear here. Oh, I'm getting a phone call. That's not helpful. So this is part of your rough draft grade, not whether or not you have a percentage. So if you see a 70% similar to something, it doesn't, the world does not burn. I don't send you to your assistant principal at that point. I don't fail you in the class. Like, nothing happens. This is the reason we have this. It's a check. It's for you to see when you've made a mistake before you turn in something as a final draft. So the only part of this that is a graded component is that you have to do it. If you forget the Turnitin step before the final draft, you will see in your rough draft score that you have 2 points off because you didn't submit it to Turnitin.com. It takes an A down to a B. If you forget this step, if you skip over it. So I don't start the rough draft grading until after the final drafts are in, because what I will be checking is, did you turn your rough draft in on time, meaning you hit the mark in the writing process? Did you share and participate in the peer editing group report, which is a part of your responsibilities and a part of the writing process? And did you check your paper for originality before turning it into the final? None of those things can be subjectively graded. The peer edit group report, if you say thank you in your commitment instead of actually making a commitment, you may see not full marks there because you really do need to use it. But it's about participation in the writing process. If you participate in this process fully, you will get 15 out of 15 on your rough draft. But let's talk about now what this actually is useful for. If you click on your Similarity Report, it opens up a new window, which I just need to make an edit with my camera for you to be able to see. So I want to change, and now you're in the feedback studio with me. Good. And this is highlighting what is borrowed from other sources. And if you expand this, it'll actually show you what sources it came from. And so from here to here, it says this is from the Concord Monitor. And if we go down here, that should show up as possibly one of the sources that they quoted, and it didn't. So maybe we have. Oh no, there it is. There it is. More than 100,000 stilled out Power Tuesday and NH Concord Monitor. So it's not plagiarism. It's other work is cited. And so the other thing that we can see now is anything that is read is information that has been brought by the student into the paper, and anything that is not highlighted is a student's work. So this is a pretty good percentage. Over 60% of this thing is the student's work. Only a third of it has been given over to other sources. And of course, these sources are kind of nice. This happens to be journalism, not a research persuasion paper, but some pretty good sources right here, I have to say. Kind of a happy accident here. But this looks good. So if it had something like this, where it is not cited, then you might say like, "Ooh, I maybe I need to make sure that I'm being original there." Or if it's because it is a fact, look at that. That's a fact. Category 4 hurricane since 1932. That had to have been researched there. Making sure that it's cited. And the way this works, you can see down here, here's more information about Hurricane Maria, Washington Post. So this should be probably from that same Post article, and it is. And so it is cited, it's just cited a sentence later. So you're looking for those things and making sure that's all set. The other thing you can do is, this is in addition to your peer edit revision process, because your peers are really going to be more about revision, like maybe put this paragraph first, like can they help with the commas, that's great. But here is a computer's feedback. This e-rater will do a grammar check as well, and this is a pretty thorough grammar check. It'll check for things like singular articles versus plural articles, definite articles versus indefinite articles. Even if you're not familiar with all the nitpicky grammar rules that are out there, this will flag them, and it will show up in this column here. I don't necessarily need to wait to show you what that looks like. It's just that in addition to these red highlights, you will get little purple indicators as well. I'll try one more time to go back and forth to see if I can get that to load. Maybe one more time. No, it's not going to load for you, but that's where that will appear. Okay, so that's how you use Turnitin.com. That's how you set up your account. That's how you drop a paper into it, and that's how you look at your Similarity Report to learn things about your writing. It's a requirement of the writing process before you turn in every final draft. I'm going to upload this video to, you're finding it hopefully under assignment 1.7, turnitin.com directions. I'll show you where that is, up here in the first week writing process. Oh, I gotta change my computer. Up here. And after that, I have some questions that you guys have sent in. I'll take a look at how those drafts and questions are coming along. And you'll see Classroom change again at 3 o'clock when you turn in these rough drafts. That gives me about a half hour to check the drafts and turn them back to you, just that they exist, not that I'm looking at them, and then send out both the peer edit group reports and the first week final draft assignment will be posted, which is due on Monday. Other than that, I hope you all have a wonderful weekend and see you soon.